Welcome to SCORE Small Business Success Webinar Series. This particular one is Small Business Startup Orientation. And this particular program, along with our other orientation webinars, is designed to prepare you for the venture and fulfillment of successful business startup, recovery or growth, or to scare you, if you will, to the realities and risks of business startup. So either way, we're here to support you in starting and growing a business, or if you decide not to do it at this time, that's okay too. We want to give you the information to make an educated decision. So here we go with Small Business Startup Orientation. Brief background on myself. I'm a certified SCORE counselor for about 5 years. Ushered in the baby boomers, born in 1946, had a lifelong career of small business and large business. Grew up a champion. 1964, I was a national roller skating champion, and the only reason I bring that up is because I like to have people write down 5 or 6 things that make a champion. And, find the common elements of any champion, including a champion in business or a strong business leader. So sometime when you get a minute, take a piece of paper out and write down 5 or 6 common traits you think of a champion or a strong business leader. I spent some time in retail early in my career, launched a consulting business, helped to shape the telecommunications industry for several years back in the 70s and 80s, was vice president of marketing for NEC Corporation, the Global Electronics Group. I head up the North American, South American, Canada operation out of Dallas in the telecommunications segment. Relaunched consulting business, and later in my life, did about 5 years in the food service business, have taught at college level marketing courses and so forth. And as I mentioned, I've been with Dayton SCORE for about 5 or 6 years. Success begins with your current situations. And yesterday's benchmark for evaluating a company's current situation looked like this: startup initial growth, stability, maturity, decline, and survival. Today, stability is no longer viable, and maturity is no longer viable. So SCORE works with businesses in 3 basic categories: startup, which is what this webinar is about, recovery, and growth. Small business success, the impact of small business in America. We're not going to go through all these, but you can see quickly that small business is an economic engine for not only the Dayton area, but for the surrounding area and the national economy. A lot of small businesses start each year. Many of them are successful, some of them are not. And they represent a large amount of employees. Some of them are women-owned, some of them are African-American, minorities, and Native American. So small business has an impact on the American economy, and at SCORE, we're proud to work with small business. Here are some small business success samples. Many of them you can recognize, and if you want to take some time later, you can go back and match up the names with the logos. Steve Jobs, Spielberg, Oprah Winfrey, so on and so forth. These folks all started small businesses, and many of them did not have a college degree. So it just goes to show you how being in America, you have opportunities to be successful, really coming from anywhere. Small business success drivers. Success or failure factors really come from two areas. One are external forces of business impact, um, some of which are under your control, some of which are not under your control but are manageable, and some of which are not controllable. Uh, Most of the external things that impact your success as a small business startup will fall into one of these six categories. We're not going to go into that. Some of the forms that you can download from the forms package from our website will give a little more detail into each of those. The key is when you're building a startup business plan, you want to identify the top three of these external forces that could impact your startup success and build contingency plans to manage them if they should occur. Then, of course, you have internal symptoms that are kind of symptoms that you bring on yourself, self inflicted, if you will. And they fall in basically a couple categories: business performance challenges, which are the front end of the business, sales, marketing, anything that touches the marketplace of the customer, or back office operational issues. So your success can be impacted by external forces or internal symptoms, if you will. Business startup perspectives. Here's some reality. These are many of the reasons that you should not start a business. And some of these come from the SBA, Small Business Administration website. These are the reasons that businesses fail in startup mode, and most startup businesses that do fail fell within the first year of operation. Insufficient capital, if it's a retail operation, location. Timing is important. Lack of analysis, planning, and flexibility. Wrong sizing your business or over scoping the business. Rapid expansion without the sales to support it. Things like that. So you can see several reasons here. If you find something that looks familiar to you, that's of a concern, work with a SCORE counselor to overcome it. There are several types of small businesses, small business opportunities, if you will. New businesses, restarting an old business, home-based businesses, online businesses, purchase a business that's already in operation, buy into a business. There are several. There are nonprofit organizations, and of course you can purchase a franchise. So there's many ways that you can move from a career as an employee to as a career of a business owner or operator. At SCORE, we use a simple formula for success. We call it simple steps to start up, and it includes 4 easy steps. One is discovery, and we're going to touch on that a little bit here in this webinar. Second step is what we call feasibility, and that's where we come along and ensure that this is really a good idea and the timing's right to start a business. Then we build our business plan, and then we launch. Again, in the forms package on our website, you can download a hard copy of this that gives a little more detail into the startup simple steps. Why is that process important, and why is building a startup plan important? Here are several reasons. Again, we're not going to go into detail. Many of these you know, and are self-explanatory. But there's a couple you may want to highlight. Promotes successful resource management, integrates success elements, prevents mistakes, if you will, identify and prioritize and allocate tasks, so forth. Also, if you develop a plan for startup, it's easily replicable in your second and third year of operations to build on that plan and have an accumulative successful process of planning. So there's many reasons to follow our fairly simple steps process. Let's start with discovery. Small business startup discovery worksheet is in your forms package. You can download that and work through it. And we're going to talk a little bit now about your personal DNA profile worksheet. We like to start with you. Any business, the core to any business success is the owner, operator, or the person with the idea. So if you'll download the personal DNA profile worksheet from the forms package, we can work through it and also download the discovery worksheet. Part of discovery, as I mentioned, is your personality profile. So if you download that form, or you can do it here on the screen, you can see that the up and down line talks about responsiveness. And notice that at the top of the line is a low responsiveness, so you got to be careful there. So our sample is a person that has a high degree of responsiveness. They're open, they're unstructured, they're feeling, and they're very people-oriented instead of task-oriented. Where at the top we have a low responsiveness, and they're closed, and they're very structured, and they do more thinking, and they're more task-oriented. Then we go on the horizontal scale, and we talk about assertiveness, which is the opposite of responsiveness. You can see over on the left, we have folks that have a low assertiveness. They're introverts, if you will. They're left brain. And over on the right, which is our sample, we have what we call right brain, highly assertive people. So what you want to do is put a dot on each of the lines that represents your personality profile. We also recommend that you take a few minutes with a spouse or somebody you've worked with or know you well and have them take this test for you, because sometimes we get a little different opinion. And then what you do is you chart the two lines together and you come up with your personality, one of the four main personalities. Our sample here happens to be myself. I am a fairly assertive person, and I'm also very responsive. So I am an otter, if you will, or an expressive, if you will. And what we've done is we've taken 4 or 5 of the top personality profiling models, and we've combined them into one here on this page. And then we've taken the DISC profile and we've overlaid it. So we recommend that you, on the back of this form that you've downloaded, you'll see some websites, or you can just go to the internet and Google DISC personality profiles and take one of the profiles. Find a website that does it free, and they'll send you a 2-page electronic copy of your profile. That will really tell us what your business DNA. And you see the DISC profile overlays are what I'm calling integrated personality profile model. Here's how all that nets out, if you will. The people that are on this side, the lions and otters, or what we call drivers and expressives, they are what we call business performance DNA. They are front office, and they are typically leaders, and they are very people-oriented and fairly assertive and very sensing, and they like to tell, and they're typically type A's. The reason we do this is because it's important to get the right person in the right place, doing the right thing at the right time. And in business startup, we need a leadership profile person running the business from the get-go, because the front office or the business performance part of the business is everything that touches the customer in the marketplace. It's external focused, and these people will go out and find customers, make sales, bring in revenue and profitability, and that's really their business DNA. Conversely, in the back office of the business, which is where we run the business, and we have business functions like um, accounting, production, operations, human resources. These people are analyticals and amiables, and they're more task oriented. And they are basically managers. So we have leaders in the front office and we have managers in the back office. And it's important when you're starting a business, if there's just one of you, that you set proper priorities. You need to be spending about 60% of your time and energy in front office functions, generating sales, acquiring clients, and so forth, and 40% in the back. As you hire new people, you want to hire people that can complement your particular personality or your business DNA. So maybe if you're a front office person, you would hire a back office person. And vice versa, if you are a back office person, you would hire a front office person as your first employee. The key is to keep a balance and keep perspective based on what you do best and how you can contribute to the business. So again, take this little test by downloading the form and go to a DISC profile website and find out what your business DNA is. To kind of sum this section of the webinar up, it's kind of like a bicycle where business operations or the back office, or what we call bottom line impact, really puts the power to the bicycle and makes it move. And the front office does the steering. Its top line performance is typically leader, and it typically keeps an eye on the marketplace and provides long-term direction. So if you think of the bicycle principle, and again at the top there of the slides it says if you're by yourself you need to allocate your time accordingly. If you're a team of 2 or more people, you need to create a balance. This is a very important principle because many of the clients we meet at SCORE are in trouble because they have the wrong person in the wrong place doing the wrong thing at the wrong time. So in startup, we want you to get from the get-go finding out who each person is in the company, how they can contribute the most to the business, and put them in the right position. As we said, the second portion of Discovery is the Discovery worksheet. You can download it and work through it. It's self-explanatory. Then once you do that and you determine that you actually want to start the business, or you may want to put it on hold for a while, then we move to step 2, which is feasibility. Also in the forms package is a feasibility tool, and it helps you identify the key elements of the business in the front office. There are 6, and there are many elements under that, and I'll get to that in a minute. And there are 6 key elements to the back office, and it helps you to isolate roadblocks that could prevent you from starting a business, and it also helps you to identify building blocks that you want to include in your plan to build the business on. So download the feasibility tool, and it will help you work through and prepare for the planning process. The third step is planning a course, and also in the forms package is a blank fill in the blanks planning model. It's highly scalable, and I'll get to that here in a second. And you want to download it, and then once you do the feasibility tool, you transfer the elements that you identify as roadblocks and building blocks. In that tool, you transfer them to the plan and build your plan. And then build a budget and a cash or a financial analysis. If you need financial support, you'll need that. And a 1-year cash flow analysis and financial report will also help you. All those forms are available from your SCORE counselor. It's important to understand that planning is no longer a singular event. It's an ongoing collaborative process, means All the key players in the business collaborate on the plan. It's an accumulative process. A startup plan would be 0 to 18 months because that includes conception, startup, launch, and first year operation. And then once we implement that and the business is up and running, then we use the same planning model and we start planning again. We use a short-term tactical planning situation. If the business gets in trouble, maybe a 3 to 6 month plan focusing on a few issues that we're going to do to stabilize the business. But if the business gets off the ground and is growing, then you might do a little longer term strategic 6 to 12 month plan to grow the business. That's what we call a situational planning cycle. And we plan based on our current business situation. We use a contemporary planning model that's developed over the years, probably over 40 years of development and collaboration. And it's aligned with customer life cycle, which is a fairly new concept over the last 10, 15 years. You'll notice on the right that back in the 1940s, marketing planning was basically push and pull, and then in the 50s we started with the 4 Ps, and there's been variations of that over the years. Then in the 80s, American Association of Advertising Agencies and other experts came up with an interesting concept that maybe we ought to plan based on the market and our customers and not based on our business. So the whole concept of outside-in planning emerged instead of inside-out planning. So that was a major change, and now today we have at the bottom a more contemporary model. It's an integrated model. It integrates all elements of the business. It's a collaborative model. It's designed for all the key players to work together and has proven core business principles integrated into the model. It's relevant today. It has proven strategies that have worked today. It's simple. It has basically 2 pieces, a front office and a back office piece. It's applicable to many types of business. It's modular. It's scalable up or down depending on size of business. And it's comprehensive. It can be used today for planning applications and in the future. Your SCORE counselor can provide more information on the model, but the model is in the forms package and you can download it. You can see there the customer life cycle, and this particular model follows the customer life cycle, and that's one of the key differences in this model and other models that you might find on the internet by Googling business planning models. So we highly recommend this model. Again, it's been collaborated on for years, continues to be updated and collaborated on, and it's a very contemporary model. We call that model BusinessWorks, and again, it's very simple. It has a front office piece, or what we call Business Performance Works, and it has a back office piece, Productivity Works, and you see the elements there of each. And again, it's a real simple process. There are 6 elements basically in each front office and back office. There are many elements under those, but that's where we actually start. So BusinessWorks is the planning model. Let's review quickly the elements of it. The first piece is what we call the executive overview. Self-explanatory. There's a title page, legal business name. What is our primary offering? Not a detailed description of your products or services, but just kind of an overview. And remember that people only buy one of 4 things: products, services, experiences, or the customer experience. So you may end up selling all of them. Our contention at SCORE is that all the types of businesses, whether they sell products or services, also sell the customer experience. And the customer experience is further defined in the planning model. Plan scope, what is your current situation, startup, growth, or recovery, duration, 3 to 6 months, 6 to 12 months, so forth. Plan purpose, define building blocks, roadblocks, strategies, and so forth. And the plan model also embraces or integrates with the balanced business model, front office, back office concept. Then we have what we call the business performance or front office piece. It's externally focused, as I mentioned. It's what we call the demand side of the transaction, top line impact. It's all those elements that drive incremental gains, profit, revenue, customers. We start with leadership. Remember we said front office DNA was leadership. Section 2 is situational analysis. The traditional name for that would be a SWOT analysis, but our model takes that a step further. Section 3 is what we call segmentation, and that's where we target the market segments and the type of customers we're going after. You notice in parentheses we use some contemporary terms. We also use some traditional terms so that it makes a little clearer understanding. But situation analysis is what we call in focus. We want to focus the business on what we do best. And the segmentation or positioning strategies is what we call on target. We don't go out in the market and spray anymore. We focus down on specific segments that we're targeting. Section 4 is go-to-market pushing strategies. Again, a more traditional terminology, pushing, more contemporary, on-demand. Those are elements of the plan that push the product out into the marketplace. Things like distribution and definition of your offering, product, services, experiences, so forth. Section 5 is what we call competitive advantage pulling. Again, traditional term is pulling, contemporary term is in play. So you have to be on target, on demand, and in play. These are strategies in the plan designed to pull customers in. So we push offering out and we pull customers in. That creates what we call a point of sale. So section 6 talks about influencing strategies, what we call with passion. Those are things like events, brochures, collateral, all those types of things, and most importantly, sales, how to sell. So Performance Works has these basic 6 sections. They align with the customer life cycle, as you see there, and they have proven best practices, they have tested core business principles, and they have a lot of solutions and strategies. Then you build a budget for the business performance piece, because you can't have a plan without a budget. Then we move to the back office operations, internal focus, what we call supply side, bottom line impact, incremental reductions, cut costs, reduce costs, control costs. Here we start with management, not leadership, because these people are task oriented. Then we go to administration strategies, take charge. Section 3 is human resources, turn on our employees, motivate them. Section 4 are financial strategies. That's all your bookkeeping, your financial reporting, and so forth. So we zero it in on the financial dimension of our business. And section 5 is operation strategies. Things like security, safety, facilities, technology, all those things that go into operations. And section 6 is what we call production. That's where we produce, store, ship, inventory, products, services, and our offerings. This is what we call Productivity Works. It's the business operations side. It again is built on proven best practices, tested core business principles, and a lot of solutions and strategies. There's also a business operations budget that would go along with the startup plan. Step 4 is launch. And obviously, once you get the plan done, you implement the plan, you measure, and you make modifications as required. And then once you get up and running successfully, you plan again, recycling, if you will, and focusing on those things that will take you to the next level. So that's it. The ball's really in your court. This was designed to be an orientation webinar and just kind of wet your whistle, if you will. And your next step would be to contact your local SCORE chapter and be assigned a counselor, and they will help you through the process. They're familiar with the forms, and they can help you through it. I also suggest, if you've not done it, to go to the webinar series wrap-up webinar. It kind of gives you all your contact information for SCORE and allows you to make the connection there, and talks all about SCORE National and your local SCORE office, so you can get all the information there. Rather than take several slides and time up in each of the webinars, we just created a wrap-up webinar that does that in itself, so we can focus these webinars on the basic orientation. Well, thank you very much, and be sure and contact your SCORE office to dive further in to your new business startup, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you.